So today I'm going to be printing out something that I found online on Thingiverse. It's this super cute little lizard thing by Trey Jagger. You can see it's right here. You can find the link if you just go to Thingiverse and search this cute red-eyed crocodile skink lizard. You can download the files here. So I did that, and we're going to try and print it out. This is the Prusa slicer here. It's the one I'm most familiar with, so that's what I use. A lot of people use Cura, um, and I can use that too. I just prefer Prusa. So we're gonna go here and the little skink lizard. I'm just gonna do the latest version the guy has, and pops up right here. And we're gonna slice it and just see what kind of stuff is gonna pop up. So here we see we have a little lizard, and it's almost done. There we go. So when it turns orange, it means it's ready to slice and everything. I'm going to be printing out of just some normal PLA. I haven't chosen what color yet, but it's just still PLA. It's got the same settings and everything. I usually typically do a 15% infill because it takes a while. I could do more. Right now it's set to take about 10 hours and 5 minutes. If I made it a little bit tougher, I think Trey Jagger, the guy who made this, recommends printing it at 40. If we slice that, it'll pop up here in a second. Let's see. So now with a 40% infill, it's going to take 11 hours and 25 minutes, and I I just don't want to spend the extra hour and some, so we're going to print it at just 15. Wait for a pop up here. It comes. All right. So here we go. We can see it. Another thing that I typically change in the print settings is the layers and perimeters. So the perimeters here, I set it to 3. It just gives it a bit more of a tougher shell around it. The scrolly thing, you can kind of see it printing layer by layer. So pretty much what the perimeter means, if we set it to somewhere like here and zoom into the middle, you can see how it has a kind of a wall around the edge of it, and it's set to 3 layers deep. That's what this perimeter value here means. So I set that to 3. I've learned that that seems to just give a nice strong wall around it, so if it drops, it's not likely to snap or break or anything. And with that, I typically use a lower infill just because it uses that much more filament. So a lot of times the printer is going to recommend supports in places where it'll just kind of look a lot. You can see this blue color here, everything that's blue says it's got an overhang perimeter, so it thinks that it could probably use some supports there, like right in here under the lizard's cheek and his jaw. A couple places underneath each of these little hinges here. It's got a little bit of a blue color. So that's saying that the computer thinks that it needs to have some supports there, because down here too. It thinks that the printer won't be able to handle it if it doesn't have it. I think it could. We'll see what it looks like with some supports on it. If we do support on build plate only, it'll do supports from the build plate to each of those blue areas. And we'll see what that looks like here. Alright. So you can see already there's all this green stuff that's popped up. And those are all the supports that it wants to add. Support is pretty much just extra filament that it would print along with it to be able to support the upper layers of something that's overhanging. So if you scroll this beam down, all the green stuff there is stuff that the printer will be printing out to go along with it. And I just think that it makes it look a lot messier. You're going to have to remove all the supports once it's done. And I don't see anything that I don't think my printer can handle. Typically, if there's something that, like, if you can go from the bottom all the way up to the top, if there was something like around here that just appeared out of nowhere with no bottom to it, that's something you need to support. Otherwise, typically a well-tuned printer can get about 45-degree angle is usually a good indicator of it. A really nice, a well-tuned printer can usually go down to about 30 degrees. So we're gonna trust that my printer can do that, and I'm not that worried if it is not able to. It just means it'll have a little bit of squiggles underneath the parts that it is a little weak on. So like right in here, you can see the little lizard's mouth jawline right here. Looks like it's probably about a 30-degree angle. I think my printer can deal with that. Right here underneath his little frill, that one might be a little bit harder, but we're just gonna see what happens. So yeah, once you think you've got all the settings correct, it's not too hard to figure out. Usually you can just go with the generic settings and it'll turn out just fine. If you want, you can fine tweak it a little bit and get it to go some better. But this is going to take about 10 hours and 5 minutes to print. All you need to do really is say export G-code, and I'm going to put this in 3D projects. We're going to just save it to that and pretty much put it on the SD card that comes with the printer and plug it in. We'll see what happens. Alright, so we got the printer here. It's got a little bit of setup that we need to do. Right now it's got some PETG loaded and we need to change that out. So what we need to do then is to heat up the printer. So we're gonna go to prepare, and down here preheat ABS. ABS and PETG have the same temperature settings roundabout. So it's gonna heat it up to about 240 degrees. That will get this filament starting to flow and be able to take it out easier. While it's heating up, we're going to clean this bed off. So in order to do that, we're just going to take a bit of paper towel and some alcohol. And just kind of wipe it clean a little bit. It might not come perfectly clean. I don't think alcohol dissolves PETG very well, but it'll at least get it free of the dust and everything. You can see there's kind of a little bit of line stuff from my last print. That's sticky too. Oh well. Alright, so that's cleaned off now. It's decent. It's good. Hook that up. Throw that away. So this one, it just uses some little binder clips to keep the bed in place while it prints. So I'm just going to go ahead and hook those in here. Yep. Right, so that should be pretty sturdy. And you can see here now it's down to about 220 degrees Celsius. So the filament's starting to strain out. It's easy enough just to pull out. We're going to put in this nice yellow color. I think yellow is going to be a good color for it. And once it gets up to about the right temperature, it's probably good enough now. We're going to take this has a little spring lever thing. You're just going to push and pull out the filament, and it's coming through this tube thing. So there you go. And to just clean it up for the next print when I use it, I'm just going to chop off the end. This gets wound back around the spool. Tuck into one of these little things here for storage. Alright, now we're going to put this one on and feed it through this little thing. It's got a little hole in it that it goes through. Sometimes it takes a little bit to line it up perfectly. There it goes. You can kind of see it going through the tube. This yellow color. Alright. So it's in the nozzle now, and we're going to need to push it through until we see that yellow color coming out and no more of the gray. So, just going to try and manually push it. And 240 degrees is a bit too hot for PLA, but we still need to get out some of that PETG. So we're going to keep it at that temperature until we can get it out. It's starting to turn yellow now. See some of this stuff here. Alright. So we're probably gonna think that looks pretty good. So we're gonna turn the temperature down. We're gonna turn it down to preheat for PLA now. So it's gonna go down to 200, which is a better temperature for PLA. And as you can see here, it started off kind of gray and a little bit tough. PETG is a very tough material, so it doesn't break easy. PLA is a lot more brittle, so you can rip it apart easy. That's one way to tell the difference between the two filaments other than the color. When it starts to get that different texture, you know it's good. So it's gonna just come out here. It's getting up to about 200 degrees. So we're gonna try and push it through a little bit more, see if it wants to come out. Okay. It's looking good, so we're gonna let the printer try and extrude it a little bit. Prepare our move axis. Move the extruder. We're gonna move it 10 millimeters. So that's gonna activate this little gear here, and it's gonna squeeze in the filament through the tube and have it come out here. And it looks like it's coming out pretty good. So, yeah. We're gonna call that good. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to set it up to print. Now that the filament's been changed out, it's ready to go. I'm going to print from TF, that's the SD card. We're going to do this little red-eye crocodile skink. And we're going to wash the first layer. I have the bed leveled last time I printed, so it should still be okay. But we're going to wash the first layer to see how it does. And you can see down here there's a little bit of leaking coming from the nozzle. That's just because it's at a temperature that the plastic is starting to melt a little bit, and it's coming through and leaking out. Typically you don't want that to happen, but I haven't figured out a way to keep it from doing that completely. And for the beginning of the print, it's gonna be okay. Alright, so it's about heated now. It's going to start moving in just a second. There we go. So right when it gets to about the end, we're just going to take off this little tail and just let it start. So it's doing its little prep line thing, making sure it's extruding properly. And it's going to do the little outside perimeter. So you can see here this little line here. It's nice, it's thin. It's just ever so slightly squished into the board. It's not loose and dangling. You can't pick it out and pry it with your finger. That's how you want it. You don't want it to be too squished into the board, because this is going to ruin your board. And you don't want it to stick out too much, because then you don't get a good print. So now it's printing out the very first layer of the little lizard. It's got one of its paws going right now. You can kind of see it here. So it looks pretty good. So you can kind of see here, this is the good square, if you can get that. So this is a good piece right here. It's a good showing of a good first layer infill. It's not spread out at all, you can't see the board through it, and it's not squished and overflowing like a little wave. It's just nice, it's even. That's how you want it. So you can see here how the nozzle is just floating around the top right there and laying the filament down. It's not squishing into it, there's no bumps and waves that you can see in the filament. And it's not leaving any stringy lines. So that's good. So it looks like it's just about finished that first layer, and everything looks pretty good. There's some spots, but they'll probably even out in the second layer. So yeah, usually if you have a good first layer, then your print's most likely going to be successful. So this is a good sign. We'll see how it turns out. So it just finished. It's been about 10 hours and 2 minutes according to the clock. And you can see there's a little bit of stringing here. That's okay. It's not too bad. It's not going to ruin anything. Typically, it's not something you'd want on a print, but in this case, it's very minimal, so it's totally okay. And it seems like it did okay with not needing any supports or anything, so we're going to take it off and see what it looks like. Just wanted to use the little spatula looking thing. Okay, I'm just going to try and pry it off. There we go. Alright, that was pretty nice. So here we go. Here's a little red-eyed crocodile skink lizard. It's cute. It's able to wiggle around and move. So, yeah. Say hello. Maybe comment below what you think it should be named. And like the video.